You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-new Prologue EV, there's a lot that can impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Now's a good time to remember where the story of tequila started. In 1795, the first tequila distillery was opened by the Cuervo family. And 229 years later, Cuervo is still going strong. Family owned from the start, same family, same land. Now's a good time to enjoy Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. Go to Cuervo.com to shop tequila or visit a store near you. Cuervo, now's a good time. Trademarks owned by Becle, SAB the CV. Copyright 2024. Proximo. Jersey City, New Jersey. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Le Batard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
Mike Ryan Stugotz did not go because he is now traveling with the Hurricanes. And if you've been following this, yes, I don't think there are many fans nationally who have attached themselves to this project in Miami the way that Mike has, traveling with the team. Largely, you know, the history of University of Miami football, they don't travel great. Even when they're really good, I'm sure that Mike Ryan is traveling with a group of people that he's gotten to know because they're among the few that go to a lot of the Hurricane games. And so Miami goes up to South Florida and puts up a 50 spot. So Cam Ward has now started with more yardage, Stugotz, in the first 4 games than any quarterback in 25 years for the University of Miami.
That's crazy.
Who's the last one? Testaverde? Like, it's 25 years since a quarterback started this way at Miami. I'm guessing it's pre-Dorsey. Dorsey didn't start this way.
Ja'Cory got out to a hot start.
25 years is what they're saying. It hasn't been this. 300 yards, 4 straight games. They've also scored more points than any point in 4 games to start a season in the history of the program.
The fewest amount of points they have in a game this season is 41. It's absurd.
So you get a true freshman, Jordan Lyle, clearly being faster than all of South Florida's players, and South Florida's players are fast. That offense can be good against everybody. That part is easy to see. Maybe someone in the future will have pass rush that gives them problems. Maybe there'll be a turnover issue, but there is no disputing that this is an elite offense with an elite quarterback. But Mike Ryan is making me insane because all he's doing is being totally reasonable about his football team. I text him, you've got an elite offense, and it's like, just taking care of business, Dan. We've got a shot to do something this year. It's all like said with a briefcase in his hand.
Right. Well, it's a business trip. I mean, he's right.
It's annoying.
Press conference speak is what he's getting.
It's annoying.
But Mike put the team together or helped put the team together. He expected this. I mean, he's confident in his own evaluations.
I don't think he likes the appraisal of helped put the team together, but he was involved in the innards of what it is this was. And clearly, Mario Cristobal, this can't be disputed, Stugotz, the part I'm about to say, because you look around the sport, Tennessee's obviously good, Ohio State's obviously good, Georgia's obviously good, Texas is obviously good. But in that next class of, can they be up there? This, what you've seen from Miami and that schedule, obvious playoff team.
Yeah. I think the Canes are in that class, actually, for this year.
I think their opponents yet have not shown that they are. I wouldn't feel comfortable against Texas or against even Georgia. I wouldn't feel comfortable, but still.
But that's a step, Dan, because normally I would not feel comfortable going to Louisville. But I do this year because I think the Canes are that good.
Mike Ryan, why are you being so reasonable?
I've been reasonable for several years.
Yeah,
I don't understand why this is a surprise. The only thing that's changed is the results are different.
Yeah.
But I've been the same guy I've been for the last 3 years, and I get no credit for that. But yeah, you guys keep wanting to talk about the University of Miami, and you keep throwing out the same things, the tired catchphrases of the U is being back.
Yeah.
Every week I walk in here, the U is back. No, we're back to work.
Exactly right.
The U is back to work.
9 to 5.
And I am also back to work.
Mm-hmm. You know who was back this week, and I'm wondering, like, from the fan base's perspective, the boosters' perspective, all of the perspectives that you have, the turnover chain made a brief cameo.
That was organic. It was very brief. It showed up. A fan handed a walk-on player. He got an interception. Guy makes plays in practice a lot.
Yeah.
He got handed a turnover chain. He put it on. The Canes there was a great amount of cockiness attached to this certain performance. Cam Ward baiting a late hit penalty because he was pointing at the defender chasing him. And twice in this game, and it's not the first time it's happened this season, Cam Ward pointing directly at the defensive line, telling them where they're going to run the ball. And then Miami runs the ball there at that exact spot. Cam Ward tells the opposing defense and scores a touchdown. So yeah, some of the fun is back at Miami.
Well, and the celebrations. They were doing this on the sidelines, and this harkened back to a different age. I have not seen the celebration that involves obvious pantomime of spanking. There was spanking going on. Old Canes in uniforms once upon a time, they never dared to do the spanking. The celebrations were generally sensual in nature, but I have not seen synchronized spanking.
It was a great atmosphere. That stadium was certainly louder than the Swamp. Swamp wasn't loud at all. This was a loud stadium that was filled mostly with Miami Hurricanes fans, and it's great to see. And hopefully everyone comes out on Friday.
Mike, at this point, you would be surprised if the Canes don't make the playoffs. I would be surprised.
I'm not looking.
They don't play anyone.
We got Virginia Tech on Friday. We've been very bad in this conference.
Right.
We got an
one
ACC
game at a time
size chip on this shoulder.
Right.
That we need. If you're national and you cover this program occasionally, anytime they make a little bit of noise, you always assume, that's a team that'll fall apart in the ACC. They'll lose to like Wake Forest or something like that. So we got a lot to prove this weekend. We're not going to take our
I don't
opponent
like
lightly.
this. Can you guys help me with this? I don't like what's happening here. I mean, Mario Cristobal at the Swamp is cracking gator jaws over his knee, and Mike Ryan's taking him one game at a time.
That's flashy. We like the play on the field to speak for
Business
us.
as usual.
Just worried about Virginia Tech.
They're doing what's expected of them, Dan. What is there to celebrate? Doing your job? That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching in the corner of the screen here multiple players celebrating the pantomime spanking of an opponent.
That's
here.
actually an audible.
Yeah.
That's an audible call. He's signaling to the sideline bracket coverage.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Right. All business.
Mike Ryan being reasonable Cane fan is no fun. I was asked this.
You know what I've noticed? My team also winning every week has not been very fun for the rest of this show, which is curious. Looking forward to Alex Golesh's interview on God Bless Football this
why
week.
are you doing this to me when I'm sitting here
Why'd you do that to me for the last 4 years?
Because it was fun.
Yeah, okay.
Like you won't be there if they lose the game, Stugotz.
I'll be right there.
After 4 years.
This is all a setup. You're all trying to draw me out so I can get emotional.
I don't think they're going to lose, Mike, until the playoff.
We're not talking playoffs. We're talking Virginia Tech.
No, okay. Well, so forgive me then, because it's fine that you don't want to go down this path, but it has been, Stugotz, a while since I am in the street, and by way of conversation, instead of the Heat, instead of the Dolphins, the entry point to people who want to talk to me is about the University of Miami. And it's also been a while since, not unlike with the Dolphins when they came upon offense, that I would say to you, whether you want to say the U is back or not, the schedule is easy enough and the offense is obviously good enough that they should be favored in all of their remaining games until the ACC championship based on what we've seen so far. Cam Ward is a legitimate Heisman candidate. He has announced himself to America on a whole lot of people aren't playing better than this right now. He has not yet turned the ball over very much. They have not played exceptional teams yet, but they don't play exceptional teams. And so when I'm telling you 4 games in that they will be favored against everybody they play against if their quarterback is healthy, that suggests to anyone listening that the team is relevant again in a way It wasn't even relevant when Mark Richt had him at 10-0, number one in the country going to Pittsburgh, and we all knew that team wasn't actually that good.
I agree with everything you just said, but I also understand Mike, who, at least for the last 15 years or so, has been a bit tortured as a Hurricanes fan, wanting to take this 1 week at a time. Like, not wanting to get too far ahead of himself because, Dan, he's smart. He looks at the schedule. He sees that the Canes have a massive opportunity here, but he just doesn't want to talk about it.
So
I'm with you. Not good for the show. But
no, I'm not even saying it's not good for the show. I would say my wife does this as a way to make sure that she doesn't feel great disappointment. If you put your expectations in a very reasonable place, you're less likely to be disappointed. But what I'm saying to you and everyone listening to this, if you're not willing to get excited about the fact that you have an elite quarterback, then when are you allowed to put your expectations in something? Because the reason that Billy and Chris are the way they are today is because of the expectations of the last couple of seasons of what they've seen from the offense, and then it goes to Seattle and you're like, well, I'm used to the 24-3 game with all my shit teams that go up there with offense, but I'm supposed to have an offense that I'm going to get in the game no matter what, because even if I'm down 24-3, because of the skill guys I have. If you're not going to get excited about the fact that the University of Miami clearly has one of the best quarterbacks in the country, then what are you going to get excited about? What are you allowed to do with your expectations? I think he's got post-traumatic stress disorder from all the other times he's had expectations.
Look, I've seen this team deal with an injury to their best defensive player and their offensive line decimated early. So I'm really excited to get into conference play and get our best players back. And hopefully we can put in some good performances.
Right. I mean, Dan, it's why I'm not that excited about what the Jets are doing and what Aaron Rodgers did on Thursday night. Like, I've had too many heartbreaks. I've fallen for this before. And so I want to be excited. I want to get excited. I look at their schedule. They have the Broncos coming up this week. I think that's a win. But, I have to tread lightly here because bad things usually happen to my team.
You've got a proud Virginia Tech Hokie team that is well coached coming into town. One thing at a time.
They are proud.
We always fall apart come conference play. We got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
God, I hate this. If you're not going to get excited about a great quarterback, what the hell in sports are you going to get excited about?
I'll give it to you. Okay. All right, fine. I'll drop the bit.
Yeah.
We are indeed back to work.
I mean, he's no Derek Robertson, but
is Virginia Tech well coached?
Yeah, we have respect for our opponent.
Yeah.
The thing about Miami, right, is like there's gonna be
who
a
is
hiccup.
the coach?
There's always a hiccup, right?
Yeah. Beats me.
I'm looking at it, Billy. I'm trying to find where
there's
the
always a hiccup. It's just
They're coming into the hardest part of their schedule right here.
It's just recovering from the hiccup has been kind of what happens to the Canes sometimes.
At Cal,
That's why
maybe?
you're the Duke.
At Cal, maybe next week.
That's tough. Look at all these consecutive games, cross country, prime time,
back road games.
Yeah.
At Cal, at Louisville. After
very
Louisville.
difficult. Very difficult. Those are good programs.
And Florida State. These next four.
I think
Florida
Louisville
State's a
plays
rivalry
Notre
game.
Dame this week, right?
Yep.
Louisville could be favored in that game.
Whoa.
I can't say it.
Whoa.
I'm not going to say it.
Just
Whoa,
pretend
might
there's peanut butter in your mouth.
We
haven't proven anything. We haven't proven anything.
I don't believe that California or Louisville will be now favored against the University of Miami.
Cal won't be. It'll be interesting to see if Louisville beats Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then that's like a home primetime game. We'll see what the line is. But the lines have been very respectful of the Miami Hurricanes.
If I may, though, okay, because
This stinks for Dan.
and
for me, really.
I'm willing to do this, even though I understand that they haven't played anybody.
There's a reason why you're saying that. It's because they've been dominated.
For the last 25 years, the University of Miami, trying to live off of past glories, has thought that it is not Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Louisville. It's not any of these teams. Louisville, excuse me. It's not, but it has been. They've been just another team in a historic, nostalgic uniform that used to win championships. They are not that team anymore. They're not Georgia Tech. They're not NC State. They're not North Carolina. Their quarterback is better than all of those quarterbacks.
They're back.
Yeah,
to work.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarter is back.
To work.
Yeah.
They have a quarterback that no one can dispute. There's not an answer for how he plays the position. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to be a team that is different from all of those ACC teams that you're used to seeing, that Louisville does pull away from.
It's a lull.
Lowell does pull away from Georgia Tech late, but there's not a lot of difference between them most of the game.
That's several weeks away.
Yeah.
We got a primetime game.
Right.
We got to pack the Rock.
Respected coach.
Our students got to come out there, show out.
Will the Rock be packed is the question.
Probably not.
Is the turnover chain traveling now?
No, that was just a fan that handed.
You got to
something.
get that out of here.
And we've talked to that player.
Did they melt that down? What happened? What happened to that thing? Like, is it just non-existent anymore?
It's like your grandfather or grandmother's jewelry. It gets put together. A bunch of jewels get put together, and then it's some quinceañera.
Hi, it's Julio Gotti from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Are you tired of feeling tired? Every time my alarm goes off, I hit the snooze button repeatedly and then slam my head back on the pillow almost every morning. I was speaking with Roy the other day about everything we juggle on a daily basis. Work, family, friends. It's no wonder we feel exhausted. We're busy taking care of everyone and everything. But who's taking care of you? That's why I started taking Magnesium Breakthrough. It's an all-natural supplement that helps you reduce fatigue and sleep more peacefully. Did you know that most magnesium supplements only offer a fraction of what your body needs? Nurture your mind, body, and soul with this all-natural full-spectrum magnesium supplement. Simply go to buyoptimizers.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan, that's DAN, during checkout to save 10%. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, but you will also make sure your monthly supply is guaranteed. Buy Optimizers.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie Wolves is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Stugotz here. The most important things in my life are my wife, my children, and of course, their safety. That's why I've had Simply Safe Home Security in my house for 7 years now. I want you to have the same peace of mind that I and so many listeners experience every day, which is why I partnered with Simply Safe to offer listeners 50% off a system. Just visit simplysafe.com/DLB to claim it. Whether it's setting the alarms before we all go to bed or setting that alarm before we go on another vacation, Simply Safe gives me amazing peace of mind. Simply Safe provides faster response for better protection with Fast Protect monitoring and Live Guard protection. Protect your home with Simply Safe right now. Le Batard Show listeners can get 50% off any new Simply Safe system, plus a free indoor security camera with Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/DLB to claim this offer. It's for a limited time only, so be sure to order today. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Dan Le Batard.
But it's just his titties are sitting on the shelf that is his belly.
Stugotz.
You said titties, and it like shocked me a little bit. I wasn't quite prepared for titties.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
It has been happening, it seems like, more and more around here where we start a show and somebody that is either locally iconic or nationally iconic and means something to this show has passed away. Mercury Morris is gone now at the age of 77. And for those of you in South Florida who remember this far back, you can say with a decent amount of confidence, after Muhammad Ali came through South Florida with a great deal of flamboyance, that Mercury Morris might have been the first South Florida athlete who was black, fluorescent, flamboyant, outspoken, dangerous, eloquent, fun, a poet, and a member of the 72 Dolphins who was very different from all the other members of the 1972 Dolphins, the most vocal of the 72 Dolphins. It was a rare time in sports, Stugotz, to be exhibiting that amount of personality and brashness as a black man in sports in 72, not that far removed from the civil rights movement, like a genuine South Florida fixture and a source of great strength and black pride locally, because it had to be hard to be him, and he was unapologetic about being a genuine star on an undefeated team.
Yeah, he was also a great player, and that was a legendary team. He had 1,000 yards. His only 1,000-yard season was for the 1972 Dolphins. He was outspoken. He was great. He was confident. He took so much joy every time the last team that was undefeated lost every season. No one else has done it. He's part of a team that did it. He's a great guy. And I got to know him a little bit over the years. Mercury was different. He was interesting, and he was very cocky and very confident, but there was a very caring man there as well. Mercury Morris was great.
That team, I saw a clip the other day of Larry Zonka running down the sideline, and he basically just ran over someone on the sideline, and he was telling the story with Don Shula of Don Shula loved the hit. Then, for the first time in the sport's history, they saw a running back called for unnecessary roughness just for running. And then Don Shula flipped out on him for costing them 15 yards because Larry Zonka was just super physical. I know this is a bygone time, and I know that more and more you've come to expect that people in their late 70s and 80s aren't going to be with us anymore, but I just did want to stop for a moment in the celebration of what this sport has been in this town and in making this town matter more than it used to back in 1972, because they had this undefeated thing down there, and it was the first sports thing that they had. There wasn't like Highlight or some third world or international thing as opposed to major league professional sports. But when we talk, Stugotz, about the toughness of football, I want to show you a couple of things here, because I was laughing this weekend. Stillwater, Oklahoma, it was 100 degrees. It was clear that everyone on Utah and Oklahoma State was broiling on the field, because they went to the sideline reporter and she's holding up a thermometer and it feels like 143.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
And then
I love that move.
They go, but there are fumes coming off the field, and we are baking human beings is what we're doing. And they go to Brock Heward in the comfort of the air-conditioned booth, and he's like, it's a day for toughness. And I'm like, nobody wants to be out there broiling at 143 degrees.
But he's right.
I mean, okay, so you're going to out-tough. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show.
Was Brock right?
Can you out-tough 143 degrees? I mean, okay, you're asking a crab to out-tough boiling water, but okay. Stugotz thinks that Utah comes in with more toughness because they can handle 143 degrees better.
Have you seen their coach? I mean, Kyle Whittingham might be the toughest coach in America.
Okay.
I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Yes, no, that's why they won.
Yeah.
That's why, because he rides to the stadium on a motorcycle. That's why Utah went into Oklahoma. They beat Mike Gundy, who was wearing pants that were catching fire from the flames on the field, because 143 degrees is not a reasonable temperature for anyone to play football. But because football is giving off toughness at all points, here you've got a tattoo that's ridiculous, Stugotz. A person with, I believe, both wonderful and horrible judgment has gotten a tattoo of Dan Campbell on their knee, around their knee, trying to bite their knee, because Dan Campbell is a knee biter and is threatened to win in the NFL. He's got a 26-27 career record, by the way. He has threatened to win in the NFL by biting everybody's kneecaps. And so here is a photo of a terrible idea. And I also wanted to show you a picture of, and this is stunning here. This is comedically perfect. Forgiveness to the audio audience, but
we're showing pictures.
When Gronkowski says that the guy who is most likely to break his records as the most dominant polar bear in the history of the game looks like Brock Bowers. You can't dispute that this hairline and the crazy in the eyes that gives off a little bit of the Cajun guy in Waterboy. The crazy in the eyes, you can see how that can be trained to have about 1,400 receiving yards if it gets the right quarterback in the NFL. But that does not look like athletic dominance there. You have to shave the rest of that. Somebody who loves Brock, tell him, just go bald there, Brock. It's okay. You might be insecure about the shape of your head, but it's going to be okay.
That's what Jason Taylor would look like if he'd let it go. Yeah. That's it. This is a message to come on home when it's that bad.
Right. But you think Brock would look that good if he did cut it all off? I mean,
I mean, it would look better. I can't
would
think
look
of
better.
worse hairstyles, really.
I know, but bald? I mean, Brock Bowers?
Are you arguing for the look that he's rocking over
I need to see it
being
combed.
bald?
I need to see him showing up to something formal. I mean, it's right after a football game. I need to see the hair at the draft.
You need it combed over, Stugotz?
I just want to see.
Combing it over is going to make a difference.
Listen, before I make a judgment here, I need to see what it looks like when it's combed.
I will be with you on the idea that once you've taken your helmet off, you have that particular patch of hair, that scratchy patch of hair. Sweat after a football game is not going to help the look at all. But that's as bad as it can look if what you're trying to do with your hair is appear athletic. That's the worst you can do. 7 strands of hair that you're hanging on to prematurely old is not the way to look if you want to be considered a world-class athlete. And cross-eyed is also not helping.
I think he's just looking up.
Yeah.
You don't think
I don't think he's actually like that. It's just a weird angle.
Can't control that.
So you don't believe that right
I think
eye
he's just focused.
You don't believe that right eye is doing something different than the left eye?
Yeah, no, naturally. I've seen him before. He doesn't appear that way to me.
I have a great picture of him here, Dan. Like, you tell me, is this a guy that should shave his head? Look at him.
Show the audience.
I mean,
it's Stugotz. That's the hair combed, but he's clearly losing his hair.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying I need to see the hair combed, and it still looks okay combed. He's not, it's not an emergency where he needs to shave it today. I think he's got about 3 months left.
I think it is an emergency. I think it right now is an emergency that he needs to take care of that right now so that we can respect him more. We're going to underestimate him the rest of his career if he continues to look like this in public.
That's fair.
That dude's amazing.
Yes.
An incredible football player at Georgia.
Yes,
well, you know who else is amazing? And there are so many athletes, Stugotz, running around on football fields all over the place that make tackling them very difficult. Saquon Barkley yesterday, the Saints had not given up a 10-yard run all season. And basically all Philadelphia had yesterday, because Jalen Hurts has more turnovers than anybody in the sport since the beginning of last year. Mm-hmm. All they had was hand the ball to Saquon Barkley and see if he can go 65 yards.
Yep.
And
he did it.
And he did, yes. And he did do it, and they barely end up beating the Saints and compensating for the fact that that Sirianni is trying 61-yard field goals late. Sirianni is doing everything he can.
He's passing up chip shots, and then that's the time he decides to try to kick a field goal.
He is doing everything he can to try and screw up that job, but Saquon Barkley would not let him yesterday. Because we believe that the Saints aren't as good as they looked the first 2 weeks of the season, and that the Eagles are better than they've looked the first 2 weeks of the season. But I don't trust anymore in the sport right now, Stugotz, the way that it's being played. More obsessive-compulsive than ever about you can't be Will Levis. Right. Will Levis, you're going to lose your job in 3 games if you keep making bad decisions. Jalen Hurts having more turnovers than anyone in the sport since the beginning of last season, Stugotz,
crazy.
Is a problem that will undermine you in a sport where all the games are this close and your offensive line isn't as healthy as it's been the last few seasons, and you got to go on the road and win a game scoring 14 points because you're constipated offensively, your coach takes too many chances, and you're turning the ball over more recklessly than anyone in the sport.
It sounds crazy. It shifted very quickly, but a guy like Alex Smith is the kind of quarterback you want now. He is. He's a guy that never turned the ball over. Dan is right about this.
I don't want Alex Smith. I still prefer.
It's a larger point of you prefer your quarterback. Like Aaron Rodgers hasn't been great. You know what he's not doing? Turning the ball over.
Alex Smith said yesterday during the broadcast, he's like, do you know how hard this position is to play? Peyton Manning spoiled it for everybody. All these young quarterbacks can't be playing. They're not ready to play. No matter how good you think they are, none of them are actually baked enough to be out there. It's Peyton Manning screwed it up for everyone, and C.J. Stroud made it a little bit worse, but you cannot expect these people to play that position well and not look like Caleb Williams yesterday, or, for that matter, Anthony Richardson, because they haven't had enough snaps.
What you're saying about Peyton is there are very few guys, if any, that you could put in, have them start the entire rookie season, have an awful season, and still have the mental ability to shrug it off and turn out to be one of the all-time greats. That is very difficult. Bryce Young, I don't think, is going to have the ability to do that. I'm not certain if anyone other than Peyton has the ability to do what he did, because he was awful in his first year and still turned out to be one of the all-time great quarterbacks.
Awful is overstating it, but he threw a lot of interceptions.
I think the most interceptions a rookie has ever thrown.
Yeah, and prior to that, no one had thrown more passing touchdowns either. He had the rookie passing record for a long time.
But the Eagles are so interesting from this standpoint. You're right about Hurts and the turnovers, and Sirianni is not helping them out. But, Dan, they beat Green Bay with Jordan Love on a neutral field. They should have beaten Atlanta if Barkley made that catch. And they beat the Saints, who were the hottest team in the NFL, and they beat them on the road. Like, the Eagles could easily be 3-0, despite Nick Sirianni and despite the turnover.
I feel like we can do that with about 25 teams in the
we
league.
could, yes.
I mean,
Dolphins could be 0-3 if they don't get a fumble.
It's true.
You want a stat?
So could the Chiefs.
Courtesy of ESPN Stats and Info. The Dolphins are the only team in the NFL to not hold a lead for a single second this entire season. Their lone lead was on the game-winning field goal.
Right. But you have your eye on him, huh?
I mean, sacrificial lamb time.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And the person who were making the sacrificial lamb is the person who gave them their only lead of the season.
Are you guys like everyone else in our audience that when the red zone goes down for technical difficulties for 9 seconds yesterday, you break out in hives and start screaming and kicking the television because your addiction is so strong that you're not a reasonable person around your television on Sundays? Did everyone collapse when the red zone went down for 9 seconds on Sunday?
I used to be, but the sport isn't my top priority anymore.
Yeah. Business trip.
My top priority is playing well within the conference and just, not beating ourselves.
Right.
Survivor pools everywhere are ruined, correct?
Well, week 1 with the Bengals.
No, all of it, though. They're all ruined, right? All of them are ruined.
Yeah, I'm in an 80-person one and basically can wrap up tonight.
Really?
Yeah. There was only 3 people left over, and they all have the Bengals, so we'll see. But it's been a tough year for people to pick straight up against the money line.
A lot of people had the Bucks yesterday. Yeah, I know I did.
I'm on the Bengals tonight.
Can I want to go back to this for a second because I saw how sweaty and complaining Stugotz was when we went out to Dolphin Camp and he had to walk from the parking lot 20 yards to the air conditioning of camp.
Yeah. Oof.
You again think that toughness is a reason that a boiling field of 143 degrees is something that football players must summon to be tougher than the next guy who's better at boiling in 143 degree temperatures than you are. I just want to be clear.
Who said it again? Brock Heward?
It was Brock Heward.
I'm just supporting my guy.
It was Brock Heward in the press box, in the air conditioning of the press box, talking about toughness. I just want to be clear that you think that some players are better at broiling than you are.
The Steelers.
All right. At Batard Show, Juju, are the Steelers better on a broiling field than their opponents?
They don't care what field they play on. They just win. They don't win by a lot, but they win.
I just think 143 degrees, I don't know. Like that, those are literally sauna-like temperatures.
Seems like a game we should have canceled.
It feels to me like it feels that the sport is already unhealthy. But let's put this on turf. And basically what we're asking you to play on in boiled water, Oklahoma, is a skillet. Let's play football on a scalding skillet and see. It must be so unpleasant to land on that field and have your arms just go across the turf and leave whatever burn mark is there for the field to broil.
Right.
Because you're cooking meat on the field is what you're doing. You're not playing football at 143 degrees.
But Brock Heward says you have to tough it out, and he played. He knows.
I don't know how you measure these things, but one of the teams has to be better than the other at that.
Yes.
But how do you practice for it?
Well, down here it's easier. Yeah, it's more difficult than Utah.
Well, no, but I thought this was in Stillwater, and I was told that Gundy's team had the advantage because they always practice on a skillet.
Oh.
And then they lost to Utah because Stugotz says their coach comes in on a motorcycle.
He's not the only one that says that. But, yeah, I guess that means Utah's tougher.
Yeah.
Is that what it means?
Yeah.
We found it out.
They are.
In Ace Ventura 2, he has to, for some reason, go over hot coals. Maybe we make players go over hot coals.
That's how we practice that?
Train their feet for
I
warm
think so.
temperatures.
Mark Mangino got fired for that.
He did.
He did.
Hazing, I believe.
He was leaving all sorts of calluses on the field.
They would do crab walks on those artificial turfs that were 135 degrees.
Well, we tried that. We can't do it. All right.
Yes, they were, again, cooler than the ones they were playing on Saturday in Boiled Water, Oklahoma.
And by the way, Mark Mangino won an Orange Bowl.
He did.
With Kansas.
Yeah.
Again, the players had to do those wheelbarrows, 100 yards on their hands, and then they'd finish and there'd be blisters all over their hands because, again, we're cooking human meat on the field.
You win an Orange Bowl at Kansas, it's like winning a national championship.
That's why he's our Twitter avatar for all of these years.
He had to keep Talib on that team.
Huh. Because he won he won an Orange Bowl at Kansas, which swallowed champion Les Miles. And I've told you that Kansas, for about a 10-year period, I don't know how they got in the NIL game, but all of a sudden Kansas has a team that is not an embarrassment when it was the worst team in college football for a really long time.
Forever.
And I want to try to break you of something that you've been going to. Like, anytime any team is good, they're getting into the NIL game. Everyone has name, image, and likeness. You said that Mac Brown struggled with the NIL game. No, they haven't. Hey, I know they paid Drake May a lot of money. They pay their running back a lot of money. It's leveling the playing field, and it's just like back to work, back to how you evaluate teams. Yes, some teams have more resources than other, but when you get to that top line, there's very little difference. You still have to recruit the kid, you still have to develop the talent, and you still will have to deal with swinging and missing.
Mike, but this is what I'm doing, okay? Just so that you understand when I'm making it winning and losing at the NIL game. Michigan won this weekend with 32 passing yards. 32 passing yards. They beat USC. Lincoln Riley. I was told that Lincoln Riley was going to be instant by a quarterback, by a coach, and USC is going to go right to the front of the line in playoff football. It is not enough to be a great coach anymore. It is also not enough to be a great recruiter. You had better know, because your team is better at business in a more organized way in a totally changing landscape, you better be a CEO who can keep up with how fast things are changing. And Miami in 3 years, when everyone's telling you, hey, this guy's better at getting the players than other people are, where North Carolina for 3 years was dragging Mario Cristobal, or 2 years, up and down the field because it looked like Mac Brown was better at that game. He's not better at that game. You can't be down 30 at the half to James Madison and have everyone trying to run you out of town when you're near 80 years old. Like Nick Saban was saying, I don't have the heart for this anymore. Nick Saban was saying, I'm too old for this shit.
Yes, it is a CEO. And it's so don't just make the CEO a CFO and just worried about the finances, because a CEO is across the board. It is more a business position than it's ever had. And that's not just because business has formally made it there, because guys were buying their way into the game when Nick Saban was sitting atop it. That's always been around. But it's all the other things. It's being able to be on your phone at 3:30 a.m. It's over a long period of time. So I think it's just I'm not a fan of when people just say, like, Miami bought their way back into the game. Like, okay, but Miami was spending plenty last year.
Everyone's trying to buy their way
Mac
into
Brown
the game. Yes,
beat Mario Cristobal's team pretty good last year. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's more than just NIL.
When they talked about Cristobal, though, and the $15 million payroll, the idea of all of that being that overt, to me, there is a learning curve there on how it is that these guys that you're asking to make you tougher and tougher and tougher, the culture of sports now also have to be good, or have a team around them, really, because they don't have to be good at it, at all the problems that come when a guy can transfer immediately if he's not getting playing time, and you have to pay him 3 years, $1 million, because you're playing the game a little bit differently than it's had to be played before. I'm telling you, as somebody, the reason that I bring it up so often, Mike, is because the amount of failing that I have personally done in 3.5 years, not understanding what has to be known in business, has been very frustrating to me, and has felt in many turns, this is how it all changes on people. This is how people get to 50 years old and think they know everything that needs to be known. And now the space totally changes and you've got to figure it out. I've lived it. And so I could see where it is these people would be confused by a million things, because Mac Brown has done it his way for a really long time and had success in Texas doing it that way and had success getting to North Carolina. And now he's down 30 and a half at the half at home against James Madison.
But Mike is saying he also did it the new way. Now, it's not working out this year for him, but it has in years past with May and other players. So, but Dan, it is something new, and there is a learning curve. And so perhaps because the entire sport has shifted, and perhaps because it is now a business, and it's overt and it's out there, yeah, you might have a longer leash for some of these coaches because they are learning something new.
There's not a longer leash, though. There's less of a leash now because...
Yeah, but no, see, Mario Cristobal is sitting here like, listen, if they didn't have a good year, we'd probably talk about,
Stugotz, Florida State has a $64 million buyout on Norvell, and Napier's in trouble with a $20 million buyout. This stuff happens faster than it used to happen.
But they're learning new roles and new responsibilities within what it is that they do because their job has changed. It is no longer just be a coach. It's be a businessman.
It's not just that, though. Now everyone knows that money's involved, and when you make it business this overtly, it stops being about you have 2 and 3 extra years to do this. Like, man, this happened fast to Jimbo Fisher, where he goes from having the best college quarterback as a freshman you've seen, and everyone's saying, well, Jimbo's going to be right there with Nick Saban. Since then, Nick Saban's out of the sport entirely and put his name on. This shit's too crazy for me. Like, I'm not doing this anymore at 80 years old. Like, I cannot stay up here doing it this way if you're going to give the kids this much power. If you're going to leave me this helpless because you're going to make it about money this overtly.
Painting Nick Saban as helpless is certainly one way to do it. By the way,
Alabama's doing fine.
Jimbo's a victim with a $75 million vacation buyout.
Do you think Nick Saban's getting paid by the NCAA to lobby on their behalf? I'm asking because he's done a lot of speaking engagements touting this cause. Do you think he's a paid lobbyist?
I don't know if...
Because it's weird how often he's doing it. And if he's a paid lobbyist, do you think he should reveal that whenever he uses these platforms?
If he's... when you asked the question, the reason that I said I don't know is I'd like to know that. I would like to know if he is a paid lobbyist, if it's that. He has been somebody who has named himself, as far as I can tell, ambassador for the morality of what is right with this changing business. I would really like to know if he's being paid for that. I would like a transparency clause. You think the NCAA has a slush fund, a bucket of money to pay for lobbying of that sort?
Yeah, they've spent $250 million on it. Listening audience, a lot has changed over our 20 years together. One thing that hasn't, the great taste of Miller Lite. Yeah.
I think we're all saying the same thing. The only beer worth talking about is Miller Lite.
Yeah. But here, just so we're clear, this is a Miller Lite show.
I know it is.
And hey, Roy, out of curiosity, when you were winning your barbecue competition, I'm sure debates sprouted everywhere. But one thing that's not up for debate, the undebatable quality of Miller Lite.
You tell them.
Oh, it's low and slow, by the way. Over the last couple of years, one thing that hasn't changed, great taste of Miller Lite, and another thing that hasn't changed, less filling, only 96 calories per 12 ounces.
They sparked this debate way back in the 1970s.
The original light beer.
You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/stand, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Now's a good time to remember where the story of tequila started. In 1795, the first tequila distillery was opened by the Cuervo family. And 229 years later, Cuervo is still going strong. Family owned from the start. Same family, same land. Now's a good time to enjoy Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. Go to Cuervo.com to shop tequila or visit a store near you. Cuervo, now's a good time. Trademarks owned by Becle, SAB, the CV. Copyright 2024. Próximo. Jersey City, New Jersey. Please drink responsibly.